Marcus Kane wiped the grime from his goggles as he surveyed the wreckage of what had once been a Zephyrian cruiser. The twisted metal hull jutted from the crystalline surface of Kepler 442c like a monument to bad navigation. 3 weeks he'd been stranded on this frozen hellscape after his cargo hauler's engine gave out, and this was the first sign of civilization he'd encountered. The human scavenger made his way through the breach in the hull, his breath forming clouds in the sub-zero atmosphere that would have killed most galactic species instantly. But Marcus was a Deathworlder, a term the galaxy used for humans with a mixture of fear and fascination. His homeworld of Earth had forged him in fire, ice, and every hostile environment imaginable. The ship's interior was a maze of collapsed corridors and sparking electronics. Marcus navigated through the debris with practiced ease, his heavy boots crunching on frozen metal fragments. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows that danced across the walls as he made his way deeper into the vessel. His scanner began picking up unusual energy signatures from the ship's core. Following the readings, Marcus descended through a twisted maintenance shaft, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. The temperature here was even colder, but his thermal suit kept him warm enough to function. Deep in the ship's core, something caught his eye. A massive crystalline structure pulsed with faint blue light, its surface covered in intricate geometric patterns that seemed to shift and dance. At its center, a humanoid figure was suspended in some kind of stasis field. Tall, ethereal, with skin that seemed to be made of living starlight. Marcus approached cautiously. The being's chest rose and fell in slow, labored breaths. Whatever it was alive but dying. Around its neck hung a pendant that flickered between dimensions, and its eyes, when they briefly opened, held the wisdom of eons. "Well," muttered, pulling out his multi-tool, "looks like someone needs a mechanic." The crystalline prison was clearly malfunctioning. Fractures spiderwebbed across its surface, and the energy readings on Marcus's scanner were all over the place. Warning indicators flashed red as power levels fluctuated dangerously. Most species would have run from such an obviously dangerous alien artifact, but Marcus had spent 15 years fixing everything from quantum drives to neural interfaces on the galactic frontier. He got to work. It took Marcus 12 hours to stabilize the energy matrix. His fingers, numb from the cold despite his thermal gloves, worked with practiced precision as he rerouted power conduits and replaced blown relays with parts salvaged from the ship's wreckage. The work was delicate. One wrong move could have triggered a cascade failure that would have killed them both. The being inside the crystal remained motionless for most of the repair, but Marcus could see its vital signs gradually improving on his scanner. Heart rate stabilizing, neural activity increasing, cellular regeneration accelerating. Whatever this creature was, it was remarkably resilient. "Come on," he whispered, making a final adjustment to the containment field's harmonic resonators. "Nobody dies on my watch." The crystal suddenly flared with brilliant light that forced Marcus to shield his eyes. When the glare faded, the entire structure began to dissolve into motes of sparkling dust that drifted away like glitter in zero gravity. The being collapsed to the metal deck, gasping and shivering. Marcus was there in an instant, his emergency medical training kicking in as he checked for injuries with the same methodical care he'd shown the machinery. No broken bones, no obvious trauma, but the creature's skin was ice cold and its breathing was shallow. "Easy there, friend," Marcus said, helping the alien sit up and wrapping his spare thermal blanket around its shoulders. "You've been in some kind of stasis for a while. Take it slow. Name's Marcus Kane, human. And you are?" The being's eyes, swirling galaxies of silver and blue, focused on him with startling intensity. When it spoke, its voice resonated with harmonic frequencies that seemed to bypass Marcus's ears entirely, vibrating through his bones and directly into his consciousness. "I am Aethon of the Eternal Guard," it said, struggling to its feet with Marcus's help. "For 10,000 years, I have protected the Nexus of Worlds from the Devourers of Light. But my prison... How did you manage to breach containment that has held for centuries?" Your prison was a life support system, Marcus corrected, offering his shoulder for support. And it was failing. Basic engineering, really. The quantum stabilizers were out of phase, and the bioneural interface was corrupted. I've seen similar setups on deep space mining rigs. Athon stared at him in amazement, his luminous features showing something between wonder and disbelief. You speak of cosmic forces as if they were mere machinery. Everything's machinery if you know how to look at it, Marcus replied with a shrug. Question is, what are these devourers you mentioned? And why do I get the feeling this isn't just a rescue mission anymore? Athon stood in the center of the wrecked ship, his form now radiating a soft, steady glow that cast dancing shadows on the twisted metal walls. The temperature around them had risen noticeably, and Marcus felt genuine warmth for the first time in weeks. Ice crystals that had formed on every surface began to melt, creating a symphony of tiny drips echoing through the corridor. The Devourers of Light are ancient entities, Athon explained, his voice carrying the weight of millennia. They exist in the spaces between dimensions, feeding on the life force of entire civilizations. They consume not just matter and energy, but hope itself, leaving behind empty husks of worlds where nothing can ever grow again. Marcus nodded, checking his equipment while listening. His scanner was picking up residual energy signatures throughout the ship, traces of something that made his instruments flicker and spark. So, you're like a cosmic security force. Got it. What happened to your ship? This vessel was not mine, Athon said sadly, his glow dimming slightly. It belonged to a Zephyrian research team that discovered one of our monitoring stations buried in an asteroid field. They were xenobiologists, explorers driven by curiosity rather than conquest. They tried to help me when my stasis pod malfunctioned during a devourer incursion. The Guardian's expression grew pained as he continued. The researchers activated an emergency beacon, hoping to summon aid. Instead, they drew the Devourers directly to us. The creatures descended upon the ship like a plague of living shadows. The Zephyrians fought bravely, but they were scientists, not warriors. They did not survive the encounter. And you've been trapped here ever since? For 300 years, Athon confirmed, his voice heavy with guilt. My connection to the Nexus was severed when the pod failed. Without it, I cannot fulfill my duty. The barriers between dimensions grow weak, and the Devourers press closer to inhabited space. Even now, I can feel them probing the edges of reality, seeking new worlds to consume. Marcus was quiet for a moment, processing this information. The implications were staggering, an entire galaxy at risk because of a mechanical failure. Finally, he asked, what would you need to get back to this Nexus place? Athon's luminous eyes widened with surprise. You would help me? Even knowing the danger? The Devourers will sense any attempt to restore my connection. They will come for us. Friend, I've spent my whole life fixing things that everyone else said were impossible to fix, Marcus replied, rolling up his sleeves. Besides, sounds like if I don't help you, those Devourer things are going to eat the galaxy anyway. So what do you need? The quantum resonance chamber in this ship's core, Athon said. If we could modify it to create a dimensional bridge, I could return to my post. But such a modification would require… Let me guess, Marcus interrupted, already heading toward the ship's engine room. Someone crazy enough to jury-rig alien technology they don't fully understand? The risk is enormous, Athon warned, following him. One mistake could tear a hole in reality itself. Marcus grinned. Then we'd better not make any mistakes. The quantum resonance chamber looked like something from a fever dream, a sphere of liquid metal suspended in a cage of crystalline conduits, all of it humming with barely contained energy. Marcus circled it slowly, his scanner picking up readings that shouldn't have been possible according to any known physics. This thing's operating on at least 7 different dimensional frequencies, he muttered, adjusting his scanner's sensitivity. And the power output, how are you not vaporized just standing near it? Zephyrian technology is remarkably sophisticated, Athon replied, watching Marcus work with fascination. They were attempting to create a transdimensional communication array when they found me. The resonance chamber was designed to pierce the barriers between realities, which is exactly what we need. Marcus cracked his knuckles and pulled out his toolkit. Okay, here's what I'm thinking. We need to create a stable wormhole that can lock onto your nexus. The chamber's already doing half the work. We just need to tune it to the right frequency. The harmonic resonance of the nexus exists on a wavelength that has no analog in conventional physics, Athon warned. It resonates across 17 dimensions simultaneously. Many civilizations have tried to replicate it and failed catastrophically. Good thing I stopped being conventional a long time ago, Marcus said, diving into his work. I'm going to need you to project that frequency somehow. Can you do that? Athon placed his glowing hands on the chamber surface, and immediately the air filled with a sound like cosmic wind chimes mixed with the birth cries of stars. The liquid metal began to shift and flow, forming new patterns that hurt to look at directly. Hold that note, Marcus instructed, his hands flying over the chamber's control systems, and don't stop no matter what happens. What followed was the most complex repair job of Marcus's life. He rerouted quantum pathways through jury-rigged conduits, recalibrated dimensional anchors using salvaged ship parts, and somehow managed to convince 3 different types of alien technology to work together in perfect harmony. Sparks flew, alarms blared, and at one point the chamber began producing small black holes that Marcus had to manually collapse using nothing but a plasma torch and sheer determination. Almost there, he grunted, sweat freezing on his forehead as he made final adjustments to the containment field. Just need to... The chamber suddenly stabilized, its chaotic energy settling into a perfect, harmonious hum. A portal began to form in the air above it, a window into somewhere else entirely, shimmering with otherworldly beauty. Impossible, Athon breathed, his voice filled with awe. You've actually done it. Through the portal, Marcus could see a vast crystalline structure floating in space, surrounded by beings of living light. The nexus of worlds. Yeah, well, Marcus said, wiping his hands on his coveralls, impossible is just another word for hasn't been done yet. As Athon prepared to step through the portal, he paused and turned to Marcus, his luminous features showing an expression of profound bewilderment. There is something you should know, Marcus Kane of Earth. In repairing my prison and creating this bridge, you have done something unprecedented in the history of the galaxy. What do you mean? Marcus asked, still basking in the satisfaction of a job well done. No being in the history of the galaxy has ever successfully modified Guardian technology, Athon explained, his voice trembling with awe. Our science is based on principles that predate most civilizations by millions of years. Even the precursors, who seeded the stars with life and built the first hyperspace gates, never fully understood our methods. The Eternal Council themselves required centuries just to learn basic maintenance procedures. Marcus shrugged, checking his toolkit. Like I said, everything's just machinery. Complex machinery, sure, but once you understand the underlying principles... You don't understand, Athon interrupted, his glow intensifying. Your species, humans, you are not what we thought you were. The portal shimmered, and suddenly Marcus could see something else through it. Not just the nexus, but the spaces between spaces where the devourers lurked. Shadow-like entities with hunger that stretched across dimensions were visible in the void, writhing and coiling around reality's edges. And to his shock, he could see them recoiling from the portal's energy, fleeing from something that shouldn't have been possible. What's happening? Marcus asked, his scanner going haywire as it tried to process readings from multiple dimensions simultaneously. The bridge you created, Athon said slowly, watching the shadow entities retreat in terror. It's not just a doorway. It's a weapon. The harmonic frequency you generated, it's antithetical to the Devourer's existence. They cannot tolerate it. In 10,000 years of warfare, we have never seen them flee like this. As if to prove his point, several shadow-like entities that had been creeping toward the portal suddenly dissolved into nothingness, their forms unable to maintain cohesion near the dimensional bridge. Their death screams echoed across frequencies that made Marcus's bones ache. "But that's impossible," Marcus protested, watching more devourers disintegrate. "I just followed basic engineering principles. I didn't create any kind of weapon. I was just trying to get you home." "That's exactly what makes it so remarkable," Aethon replied, his voice filled with wonder. "Your species approaches problems in a way that no other civilization has ever conceived. You see patterns where others see chaos. You find solutions where others see impossibilities. You treat the divine as mundane, and in doing so, achieve the miraculous." The portal began to pulse with increasing intensity, and Marcus realized with growing amazement that his jury-rigged repair was doing something the Eternal Guard had never managed in 10 millennia of cosmic warfare. It was actively driving back the Devourers, destroying them with harmonics that emerged from pure human pragmatism. "The other Guardians need to see this," Aethon said urgently. "They need to understand what you've accomplished." "Wait," Marcus called out as Aethon stepped toward the portal. "What about my ship? I'm still stranded here." Aethon smiled, the first truly joyful expression Marcus had seen from him. "Marcus Kane, I don't think you understand. You're not stranded. You're exactly where the galaxy needs you to be." The moment Aethon stepped through the portal, Marcus felt a strange tingling sensation coursing through his entire body. The crystalline structure on the other side began to pulse with the same rhythm as his heartbeat, and suddenly he could hear voices, dozens of them, speaking in harmonious tones that seemed to come from everywhere at once, resonating through the fabric of space itself. "The Eternal Council wishes to speak with you." Aethon's voice echoed through the portal, carrying undertones of excitement and reverence. "Will you accept their invitation?" Marcus looked around the wrecked ship, then at the portal leading to an ancient civilization of cosmic guardians. The choice seemed surreal, a simple scavenger being invited to meet beings older than most stars. "Well, it's not like I have anywhere else to be." He stepped through and immediately felt the transition between realities like a gentle electric shock. The nexus of worlds was unlike anything Marcus had ever imagined, even in his wildest dreams. Crystalline spires stretched in all directions, connected by bridges of solid light that hummed with power beyond comprehension. Beings of various forms moved through the structure, some humanoid like Aethon, others resembling geometric patterns given consciousness, and a few that seemed to be made of pure energy, their forms shifting between states of matter. At the center of it all stood a council of 12 figures, each one radiating power that made Marcus's teeth ache and his scanner emit warning beeps. When they spoke, their voices combined into a symphony of cosmic authority that reverberated through dimensions. "Human," they said in perfect unison, their words carrying the weight of eons. "You have done the impossible. In 6 hours, you achieved what we have struggled to accomplish for millennia. You have created a weapon against the Devourers using nothing but primitive tools and mechanical intuition." "With respect," Marcus replied, trying to keep his voice steady, "I just fixed a broken machine. And I'm not sure primitive is the right word. My multi-tool cost me 3 months' salary." Several of the council members exchanged glances that flickered with what might have been amusement. One of them, a being that looked like a constellation given form with stars for eyes, stepped forward. "We have monitored your species for centuries," it said, its voice like solar wind through cosmic dust. "We believed you to be typical Deathworlders, resilient but ultimately limited by your biological nature and short lifespans. We were profoundly wrong." "Wrong how?" Marcus asked, genuinely curious despite the overwhelming circumstances. "Your species doesn't just adapt to hostile environments," another council member explained, this one resembling a crystalline tree with fractal branches. You adapt hostile environments to yourselves. You look at the impossible and ask not why, but how. You see the universe not as a collection of mysteries to be worshipped, but as a series of problems to be solved. Marcus felt a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. You're saying humans are different from other species? We're saying, the constellation being replied, that your species might be the key to ending the devourer threat forever. With respect, Marcus replied, trying to keep his voice steady, I just fixed a broken machine. And I'm not sure primitive is the right word. My multi-tool cost me 3 months' salary. Several of the council members exchanged glances that flickered with what might have been amusement. One of them, a being that looked like a constellation given form with stars for eyes, stepped forward. We have monitored your species for centuries, it said, its voice like solar wind through cosmic dust. We believed you to be typical Deathworlders, resilient but ultimately limited by your biological nature and short lifespans. We were profoundly wrong. Wrong how? Marcus asked, genuinely curious despite the overwhelming circumstances. Your species doesn't just adapt to hostile environments, another council member explained, this one resembling a crystalline tree with fractal branches. You adapt hostile environments to yourselves. You look at the impossible and ask not why, but how. You see the universe not as a collection of mysteries to be worshipped, but as a series of problems to be solved. Marcus felt a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. You're saying humans are different from other species? We're saying, the constellation being replied, that your species might be the key to ending the devourer threat forever. The council's answer came not in words, but in a flood of images and sensations that filled Marcus's mind like a cosmic data download. He saw the galaxy as the Guardians saw it, a vast web of interconnected civilizations, billions of worlds teeming with life, all threatened by the encroaching darkness of the devourers. He witnessed battles fought across dimensions, victories won at terrible cost, and the slow but inexorable advance of entities that existed only to consume hope itself. And he saw something else, a future where humanity's unique approach to problem-solving could tip the balance, where human ingenuity could achieve what ancient wisdom could not. We offer you a choice, Marcus Kane, the council said, their combined voices creating harmonics that made reality itself seem to vibrate. Return to your life as a scavenger, and we will ensure you reach safety with riches beyond imagination. Or join us as the first human guardian and help us protect the galaxy using methods we never could have conceived. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, processing the enormity of what they were asking. He thought about his simple life fixing broken things on the frontier, about the satisfaction of making something work that everyone else had given up on. Then he looked at the portal behind him, still humming with deadly harmonics that made devourers dissolve like shadows at dawn. Finally, he said, "If I join you, do I get to keep my tools?" The question was so unexpected, so perfectly human in its practicality, that several council members actually laughed. A sound like wind chimes in a gentle cosmic breeze, musical notes that hadn't been heard in the Nexus for centuries. "Yes," Athon said, stepping forward with something resembling a smile. "You would retain everything that makes you who you are. We would not seek to change you, but to learn from you. Your perspective, your methods, your willingness to see the divine as mundane, these are precisely what we need." And the devourers? "With your help, we might finally be able to do more than just hold them at bay," the constellation being replied, its star eyes twinkling with newfound hope. "We might be able to end their threat permanently, using weapons built not from cosmic forces, but from human stubbornness and a refusal to accept the impossible." Marcus nodded slowly, a grin spreading across his face. "Okay, but I have some conditions. First, I want to send a message to the Galactic Trade Commission letting them know where I am. Can't have them thinking I'm dead. Second, I want regular shore leave to visit human colonies and maybe recruit some engineers. And third, he gestured to the crystalline spires around them. I want a workshop, a real one with proper tools and enough spare parts to build whatever impossible thing you need me to build next. Agreed, the council said in unison, their ancient voices carrying notes of excitement that hadn't been present for millennia. As the ancient beings of the Eternal Guard welcomed their newest member, Marcus Kane, former scavenger, current miracle worker, and now guardian of the galaxy, began to understand just how much his life was about to change. But in the depths of space, something else was stirring. The Devourers had felt the sting of the weapon Marcus had unknowingly created, and they were adapting, evolving, preparing to test this new guardian and his strange human ingenuity in ways that would challenge everything he thought he knew about the universe. The real adventure was just beginning.